Hi there everyone, it is Isaac back with another video. So as you saw, the past video it was Premier League predictions. Obviously there's other leagues going on, some big leagues around the world, and I brought in my Championship fan friend, Jayden. He is, as you can see, a Wednesday fan.
Yeah.
I don't follow the Championship as close as I do the Prem, so I think me doing predictions would be a bit outlandish and a bit redundant, so I brought in someone who's an expert to predict what he thinks the Championship's going to be like. I have also said let's not put Wednesday first, ignore the bias because it's just a bit daft.
Yeah, so that's why Wednesday are down.
Wednesday are, obviously there's been a couple of games played, so we've got a little insight into what each team's about. Yeah. Obviously it's still early doors, a lot can change, transfer window's still open, but we can start to see how each team is going to start shaping up for the remainder of the season. So here we go. So as you can now see on the screen just below us is the table, or a tier list I suppose, of the Championship. All the 23 teams are there. 24 teams, 3 go down, that's probably where I got the 3 from. 24 teams there. We're going to hand it over, I'm going to offer as much insight as I can, my opinion, and we'll come to a finished table at the end. So who do you think is going down rock bottom?
I think rock bottom, I think it is going to be close between like bottom 6 teams. Bottom 6, bottom 7 teams, because I think we have got quite a few teams that aren't really quality step or need a season to get themselves up. But going down, rock bottom, I have Rotherham.
Rotherham United going straight down.
Yeah, you might see Wednesday and see, he's just sending the ones he takes down. You're probably expecting to see Huddersfield, Hull, Leeds, all them going down with him. But Rotherham, they're the smallest club in the Championship by far. I haven't seen much interesting activity in the transfer window, and I think this has been a long time coming. For the past few seasons they have been finishing like below 18th, starting to drop down, so I do think that this is a long time coming, Rotherham down.
Have they been skirting around the relegation zone for some time?
They've been skirting around, yeah.
A lot
bring
of
up
finishes
the last few seasons, I don't think like 19th, season before that, they actually did why did they do the season before that? No, yeah, they only came up.
So this will be their second
season, yeah.
Second season syndrome might be hitting. Obviously they just about survived, but
they didn't have a good season, and I haven't seen much interest in. Obviously the Championship is quite a hard league to stay in. I'd say it's harder than the Premier League because you don't get as much money to bring in, and all the owners, there's not a single owner in the Championship that isn't targeting playoff place, or at least challenging for playoff place this season.
That's got to be the aim, isn't it?
That's always the aim. Wednesday's owner has said that playoffs is the minimum. Are we going to get playoffs? Probably not. Only 4 teams can get playoffs, and only 2 teams can get promotion. So what does that leave?
It's a difficult
18 upset teams, and then in the Premier League, you obviously have the goals more spread out. Like teams just coming up are aiming around like 11th is a good place, but established teams are obviously challenging the top. But here, there's a lot more of a spread of where you're challenging, all aimed towards the top.
Who have you got second going down, just above Rotherham?
I've got Cardiff.
Cardiff City. Obviously they weren't, that long ago in the Prem. It's been a couple of seasons since they've been there, but they were definitely there.
But it's been a slow decline since they've left the Prem.
Yeah.
Like, it's been slow. Obviously they have got a few decent players, but again, transfer activity hasn't been much because it is hard for these Championship clubs to find funds after being in the Championship for so long. What ultimately sent us down was a points deduction for us trying to find any way of getting more funds in to the club. So I'm not sure that Cardiff have it in them to survive. I do think it will be close with obviously the next few teams, but yeah, Cardiff down.
Have they had much transfer activity?
I haven't seen much transfer activity. I've been following what's gone through, but I haven't seen any big names really. There's always the odd like one player out, one player in, but there's nothing like good players in on loan, which is what Championship clubs I feel that end up being successful to what they've done. Like Sheffield United, when they came up and did real well for the first season, they had Dean Henderson on loan. Sunderland came up from League One, almost got promotion straight to the Premier League. They had Diallo on loan. You need to bring in these class players on loan from big clubs, like big players that would start for a lower Premier League club. You need to bring them in so then they'll get minutes here.
think it's also about bringing in players that have got a point to prove as well.
Yes.
Like Dean Henderson was, he probably wasn't at that time, but he wanted to be Man United's number one. Diallo was trying to prove the 40 million price tag when he played one senior game. You've got to bring in players that are hungry to play, not just there for the money or for the minutes. They're there to prove that they can be the big names in world football.
Yeah, these loans are obviously the best for everyone involved when they work out, because you pay a small fee compared to the player involved, probably even minute. You only have to cover part of the wages. The main club get wages off their bill. They get minutes to a player that they are developing, but might not necessarily fit in, like in position. Like with players like Julian Alvarez, I think would personally benefit from a loan to a lower Premier League club, just because he's not going to start over Haaland.
No.
And players like Diallo would benefit from maybe another loan if he ain't going to get minutes here.
I think he would have done if he hadn't got injured in pre-season. I think he would have gone back down to Sunderland. But obviously picked up an injury in pre-season that's massively scarred his chances.
Yeah, and I do think that we need to be bringing players in to be able to sort it, to be able to go up, and loans are the best way to do it. It's happened a lot when the players that have come in have often been on loan.
And who's your final team to go down?
The final team to go down is QPR.
QPR. Why QPR?
So they were obviously an established Premier League team 6-7 years ago, was it?
A while ago now, yeah.
It's quite a while ago. But I just, ever since they've gone down, they've been mediocre at best in the Championship. You never really heard much about, QPR have had a really good season. Like you hear about spots of good form, like good games, but you never really. I can't remember when last they challenged to go back up, and I do think that eventually it is the teams that have been in the Championship a while, or the teams that have only just come up, that are likely to get relegated, because obviously they're losing more money than making in lots of cases. I can't remember who did it. I think it was HT Sport or HT7s that did a really interesting video, and it showed that most Championship clubs are losing like 10 to 20 million or upwards a season in hopes of getting promotion, like selling their stadiums. That is basically, if you saw a man gamble their house on roulette, you'd think they have a problem, but this is what Championship clubs are doing. It's what Wednesday did. It's what, who else was it? Reading did. Reading went down because of it. We went down because of it. Other teams have tried, like selling stadiums or getting bought out by real expensive owners that pump tons of money in, and they still don't get up, because only 3 can go up each season, and they all want it.
It's that thing of, as well as if you don't come straight back up, it's very difficult to get back to that point, because you just keep losing money, as you say, I suppose.
Like us in League One, we've lost a lot of quality players, we've lost a lot of money, and with the high ticket prices, it's obvious that we're trying to make our money back to try and afford to do a push. Maybe not this season, but I do see us actually doing a proper push next season and attempting to it. Obviously, I'm a Wednesday fan, that's why I talk about Wednesday so much, because it's an example I know more about than other teams. But yeah, I do think QPR will suffer from just suffocation, basically.
Who's narrowly avoiding the drop?
So narrowly avoiding the drop, I have it as multiple teams that are barely avoiding the drop, and it's Plymouth, Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday.
We'll just get those put in and then we'll touch more on that. It is interesting, and we talked about this just before we started recording, that none of the teams that came up for you go back down. No,
none of them. I do think it is because just the teams that are already in were poorer quality. I think that a lot, these 6 here are all at risk of going down, in my opinion. I do think that we'll just survive. Like, I have them in the order of Plymouth, Huddersfield, Wednesday, in that order, so Wednesday above them, but it could be any order in my mind. I think the difference is going to be by 3-4 points, decided by the games in between them. Obviously Plymouth and Wednesday, they've just come up. Plymouth, I haven't heard much from them. I have seen a few decent signings, but I think they'll take a season for them to prove themselves. I can see them challenging top half next season. Huddersfield, Again, they were in the Prem not too long ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, 5 years ago-ish, around about then.
They had a very poor season last season. Neil Warnock was there. I don't know if he's still there, but Neil Warnock was there.
Yeah.
He managed to just avoid relegation.
They did very, very poor season. Again, they're one of the small clubs in here, so they don't have the benefit of as massive fan bases as a lot of other clubs do. Because this is the biggest championship we've had in quite a while, where almost all these teams you'd see them in the Prem and you wouldn't think twice about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sheffield Wednesday would never go to the Premiership, but obviously, yeah, you can see all these teams size-wise in the Prem. Like, we've got teams with like easily can get like 20, 30, 40,000 fans to a game, even if it's not a big game. It's a big games. All these guys, they can sell at stadiums, but Huddersfield are obviously one of the smaller clubs in here. In my opinion, I do think that they won't have the benefit they have of higher income, really. So at this level, it does come down to the bigger clubs go up, and you'll see that when you see who I've got going up. It's got Wednesday. I do think I would like to put us like playoffs or even top half, but I can't do that after. Obviously, with Moore leaving, he needed to go either way in a lot of Wednesday fans' ideals. I thought we should have given him a chance, but we've brought in players, but we haven't had that pre-season with all our players in and the manager in to get them to gel together. So we are having a rough adjustment period where I think it's going to take us 3 weeks before we start seeing proper results. I've seen our games, and Hull threw away that lead. I don't know how he threw it away. Obviously, they scored 1 goal, which I can curve, like traceable. It was actually a beautiful goal. We can't see things like that, but to be 1-0 up at the break and then throw away just before see the penalty and then go 4-1. And then managed to get 1 back, but 4-2 is just as bad. And then obviously Southampton, that's one of the harder games, especially because they hadn't lost Latvia yet, they hadn't lost Ward-Prowse yet, and they've sold these players, which is why obviously they're a bit weaker than what they were, but we had one of the harder games because they only had lost Livramento at that time, which you're basically playing a full-on Premier League club. So I never thought we'd see results from there. And then we did have sparks of good play. There was moments where I could see the strategy forming and working, but it's just that the chemistry is missing because obviously we've got a bunch of new players.
Yeah, I did watch that game because it was on Sky, and it wasn't a bad performance at all. It wasn't a great performance, but it looked like a cup game in lots of ways because obviously Southampton were much the favourite going into it. They still have most of their Premier League squad. But yeah, it wasn't a bad performance at all. First half was shocking. Second half, you played a lot better. You started to get some chances, and then you did throw it right towards the end of the game. But to only lose 2-1 to probably the best team in the Championship at that time on paper is not a bad performance at all.
Especially when you saw a few of our attacks, and obviously the first goal we conceded, Southampton fans might disagree with me. If it didn't get that deflection, that would have never gone in, but obviously it took a deflection. You can't control these things as football. This is what makes football the sport it is. It took a deflection, it went in. If that goal didn't go in, I think the game could be a 1-1 draw or a 0-0 draw, but obviously that goal went in early. It was a good goal, even though it did seem to just take a deflection. That managed to touch it past Dawson. And then obviously in the cup game as well, we showed some promise. New keeper, he showed that he can save penalties from it, which is crucial, having a belt on the keeper. So we just have to hope I saw a good commanding of the defenders as well. We just need everyone to start clicking. So we brought in 10 players or 9 players, and we've only got rid of, I think, 4. And so half our squad is new, which is good things for the Championship. That's what we need. We needed to refresh, obviously. We need to start moving on, obviously, because we've got quite an ageing squad with Bannon, Palmer, they're both quality, but obviously in a few years they aren't going to be championship quality. I think we only have 1-2 seasons out of Bannon, maybe 3 or 4 out of Palmer left. Obviously Patterson and that. Patterson's a very adaptable player, but again he's getting on a bit, and because of his ability to play anywhere, he's a jack of all trades, but he's not a specialist in any given area, in my opinion. Which I love him, obviously, because he's brought magical moments. He's played striker, he's played right back, he's played centre back, he's played centre mid, he's played winger, he's played literally everywhere on the field. He's the perfect player for a manager, because he literally goes, Gaffer, where do you want me to play? I'll play there. I think the only place he hasn't played is in goal.
Do you think that new keeper will play much in the league, or do you think he will be held back for recruitment?
I saw a news report from Wednesday, and it says to expect some rotation in goal, which I think is good.
You had that a lot last season as well.
We had that a lot last season. Obviously, Stockdale fell out as he started to age, and I think Dawson started to prove himself, and I think that's what Dawson needed. Dawson has been at the club ages, and he was always like second rate to Westwood, and he was fighting with Wildsmith back when we had those two as our backup keepers to be the reserve, the cup keeper, but now he got given a chance when we let Wildsmith go, and we brought Stockdale and Dawson and Wildsmith are all the same quality, so we just let one go to bring in one keeper that would help, because he proved himself in League One with Wickham, keeping most clean sheets, so it's very high quality, obviously aging quality, so he was almost like a coach. I found out that he almost coached Dawson, so like having an older experienced player helped Dawson play, and I hope having 2 young keepers, Dawson's 25, 26, and I think Vasquez is only at 25, 26 again, so young for keepers, pushing each other to play, both trying their best in training to be better to get more game time. No, it should, bring them both up, and if one of them drops off and the other one still rises, that's a win for us. Anyway, I don't think we'll be able to sign Vasquez for a permanent deal, because if he does well enough, AC Milan might want to take him back to sell him for more money or keep him as a number 2, but I do think he will be good to help out our squad, and obviously he did do pretty well in the game against Stockport. I'm looking to concede that early goal, but he proved himself in the penalty shootout.
So you got Wednesday coming in at 19th. We'll do it in 3s because that's what we've been doing. So who's your 18th, 17th and 16th? Yeah.
Well, I have Hull 18.
Yeah.
Swansea 17, West Brom 16.
Swansea are there, and then who? Sorry.
West Brom.
West Brom is quite an interesting one because they were in the Premier a couple of seasons ago. I remember they beat Chelsea 4-2, 4-3, something like that. It was quite a good game.
Yeah, I remember West Brom. They were a very good side in the Premier League when they were in. They were very much like dark horses in the Premier League. He never expects them to do like title, but you could see them maybe challenging and putting on good performance and maybe getting at least Europa League or challenging for that. And they were very good. I remember them being very good from the corners.
Yeah.
As well, they were very good set piece, very Brexit team almost. And now there hasn't been much from them again in the Championship. They've been quite low, and I do think that they are just slowly dropping off, because teams when they've been in Championship long, it doesn't matter how good. I think if the 3 that went down this year stay down for more than 2 seasons, they probably won't come back up for another 5.
Yeah.
Because it is just, they'll burn their money.
They get the parachute payments out there, something like 40 million.
They get parachute payments.
And you've got to spend it really wisely.
You have to. I think if you get parachute payments and you don't get back up, your club's run awfully, because parachute payments are such an advantage that personally I don't think should exist. It warps.
I get why they do.
But they shouldn't.
Maybe too much. Because you buy 2 or 3 big name players thinking that'll get you back up, and then if it doesn't, you're stuck with players that are on high wages or they leave for less money.
But when the clubs do it right, it's just guaranteed promotion.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfair. The money split between the 3 that come down and the rest of the championship is almost like the rest of the championship have only so much more than those three, and obviously those three get it all for themselves. And it's not going to change because it'll need Premier League clubs to say that no, we don't want parachute payments anymore, and they're not going to do that because they want that safety net.
Yeah, you've got to have some sort of safety net, because you've seen it with the types of the name's gone out of my head, but it was the club a couple of years ago that went into liquidation because they kept going down and down and down. They didn't spend their money wisely. You need the parachute payments, but like you say, you've got to spend it wisely to be able to.
I think that parachute payments personally should get reduced because the amount of money it brings into the championship that's already very much just a gamble. It stacks the cards, and it gets rid of the competition in the league, which unfortunately, like, football's about money. Clubs who want it aren't going to change, so luckily it's always that there's one club a year that manages to go through the playoffs, and the playoffs are what keeps the championship interesting. The playoffs is where you get the most drama and more like
the playoffs. I think even though I'm a Premier League fan and I don't think Man United will ever be anything like the Premier League, I do always watch the playoffs if I can, because there's such interesting. A team that finished sixth might still end up going up, and that's
or a team that lost 4-0 in the first leg might go up.
Yeah, there is that as well, but you do get those interesting storylines. You think as well to Watford, the whole here's Hogdini. That would never exist if playoffs weren't a thing. It's beautiful moments in football that only come because of the knockout fixtures. A lot of the championship teams don't advance far into the knockout football competitions. You do get a couple that do, but not many do, and then even lower down, League 1 and 2, they don't advance very far into the knockout competitions. That's why
the bottom two have their own tournament, because it's so rare that you get someone below the championship getting into the round of 16 or even 32. Like in the championship, what I'm saying, in two cup competitions, so they need their own cup competition because the Premier League clubs are basically guaranteed to get into be the last 20 clubs, as long as they don't slip up or draw against each other, which obviously that does happen. But if they did draw against each other, they actually would be last in the top championship clubs, being the other few in. So obviously, with playoffs, it is the only knockout football that lots of the lower leagues see far in. It's a bit of silverware that's nice to win. It's amazing for the fans, obviously. Like Hillsborough against Peterborough, that atmosphere is not going to be beaten by anything. Even if we got promoted to the Premier League, I don't think it'd be beaten by that promotion game, just because of how much we needed to be behind Wednesday to get him to do that magical comeback, and we actually managed to do it, which ask a Wednesday fan what one of their favourite games was, and if they're not much older than me, they'll all say that game, and the older ones will remember some days when we obviously won silverware or were in the Premier League, and they might have better memories there. Remember when we beat Manchester United up in the Championship Club in the knockout football, I think it's the EFL Cup, 1991-92, around that time frame. Obviously older fans might prefer that, but the knockout football, those playoffs are...
It gives the younger fans better memories if they weren't around for the glory days as well.
Yeah, it's some of the best moments, obviously with Luton as well. Luton's heroic. Like you told me Luton's going to be in the Premier League club if Wednesday's in the Premier League, I punched you in the face 5 years ago. But non-league to Premier League in what was it, 7 years, 8 years?
A ridiculous amount of time.
Ridiculous amount of time. Are they going to side in the Prem? No. They're coming
Well,
straight down in 20th.
Yeah.
With Sheffield United. I hate Sheffield United. But yeah, they're coming straight down. But that moment of them getting up to the Prem, and that they'll remember, the fans remember that for a lifetime. That will go down in history.
Yeah, massively.
Because even if that's the only season in the Prem, their meteoric rise, even if it only lasts a short time. Obviously, playoffs obviously are where the magic of football happens, the magic of these leagues. I talked a bit about West Brom. I didn't get a chance to talk about Hull or Swansea. Obviously, Hull, they were in the Prem not too long ago. Beat us in the playoffs to go up, and then came back down. But I think they went back up again. I do think it is again. It's just that situation of teams being in the Championship for a long time don't really compete to teams that have just got there, teams that have just came down. Is that they burn the money like oil, obviously.
Yeah.
Money's going to run out eventually when you're burning more than you're earning. So that's why I do have Hull but Swansea as well. They've been in the Championship. God knows they've been mid-table for a bit. I do think it was just going to be a poor season from Swansea. I haven't seen anything from them really in the transfer window has caught my eye. The normal transfers in and out, like few people to watch, but not many people that I think can be game changers. It's very hard to get that a player that will be game changing in the Championship that doesn't want Premier League money or even like Championship quality players. I'd say they could get into Serie A sides or league definitely.
Oh, definitely,
sides
yeah, they
or
could get into the
sides.
lower leagues.
So, and there's more money in those sides even with a lower. Why would I sort of pick the Championship over big money at Monaco or whatever? Even if it is some of that challenging for Europe, is obviously better than these players' money. So it's hard to get a player. That's why a lot of the Championship you end up with talents that come through their academies breaking through and winning the money on big loans or just.
You think Jude Bellingham? A couple of years ago.
Yeah, big or just players that have just just came to form out of nowhere in a club a while. So think about Mitrovic.
Oh, massively, yeah.
Mitrovic and Harry Wilson, those two with Fulham, when they were in the Premier League, they were mediocre at best. But when they came down, they proved that they could do something like 40 plus goals by Mitrovic. I don't care if it's the Championship, scoring 40 plus goals in any season in I think it's like 42 games he played.
He did back up in the Premier last season.
He did back up in the Premier. He is a quality player. He proved that he could do it obviously the Championship season in the Prem, but he proved that he was way better than Championship quality.
Yeah.
He did double what most Championship clubs expect from their number 9. Every Championship club needs a number 9 that scores 20 plus if they want to have a chance to finish in top half. And he also proved he's also in need players like that. So obviously I can't predict something like a player that's going to do a random rise and end up being best player. Who knows, Baravan could start playing like Saudi. 50 assists.
He could do. I mean, it's unlikely, but he could do. Anyway, the final 3 of this section, 15th, 14th and 13th. Who have you got?
I've got Stoke,
Yep.
Birmingham, and the last one that came up, Ipswich.
Ipswich. You think Ipswich are going to come 13th? Now that's the height. Did they win League One?
No, they finished second.
They finished second. That's quite a big jump from winning, from coming runner-up in League One to comfortable mid-table of the Championship. Why is it you think Ipswich are going to do so well?
Last season on paper, the best 2 teams in League One were Ipswich and Wednesday Plymouth. They came out of nowhere. Not many people expected them to win the whole thing, and then obviously it was a very competitive 3-horse race to the title, where each team spent time on the top. And obviously injuries hit Wednesday, we couldn't play around them, we dropped down to 3rd, and these two finished not too far apart, 1st and 2nd, but I do think Ipswich were slightly stronger on paper. I just think they had a poorer start to the season than Plymouth did. But yeah, I hate Ipswich, I hate the striker, Hurst on loan, I hate him, but I do think they are going to do well. They are a massive club. They're one of the biggest clubs in the league.
They've got rich history as well, which
They've got rich history. They've got Ed Sheeran in the squad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that they are going to do quite well. I don't think we're going to have something like a Sunderland going up and straight challenging. Not in this league that is more competitive by last year by quite a bit, especially with these 3 Premier League giants. No one thought that Leicester, Leeds or Southampton would see the Championship for quite a while.
I did think with Leeds. I agree with the Leicester one. Obviously, they won the FA Cup a couple of years ago. And Southampton, I thought, were going to be comfortably. I think they would always be skirting around relegation, but I didn't think they would embarrass themselves as much as they did. But with Leeds, obviously Rafinha left, they had a couple more players leave, not maybe his big profile, but Rafinha left. I think it was always a matter of time. Getting rid of the manager they had, Marcelo Bielsa, and then bringing in that the woman Ted Lasso wannabe.
Oh yeah, that was.
It was always a bad idea.
Bit of business,
you see it on Apple TV and you think it's going to work. But I get what you're saying. This is a very difficult league this season. It seems there's a lot of teams that could. Any of those teams there that you've put in the bottom half, from an outside perspective, I could also see them getting top half and pushing.
I could see there being one or two surprises from these. I have had to basically. It was hard finding the right places for all these teams, and I changed the order around, flipped it upside down, flipped it side to side a bunch of times. Before the start of the season, I had Wednesday in the top half, but obviously I've had to check my bias really and check a bit of information about all the other clubs that have come up, and also see that my idea of I forgot how tough the championship was almost in the 2 years we're down. But yeah, with Birmingham and Stoke again, it's teams that have been here a while. They did see the Prem not too long ago, but they've been here a while. They're suffocating. They didn't do too poor last season, but they finished around mid-table. I do think it's going to be mid-table again, and I do think that it is eventually just they can't keep up with the spending of some of the newer clubs or some of the clubs with more investment behind them. So I do think they will just miss out on top half. I do think this whole bottom half is going to be quite close. I think the gap between relegated and 12th will be around 15 points, if not less. I do think the gap that is going to be, and the gap between mid-table and top is going to be not much more. Obviously I think the champions and second are going to be absolutely clear, but then I think the gap between third and 12th is going to be 20-25 points, not too much difference. I do think it's going to be a very close championship. I think a lot of people think it is. So obviously just in the size of this championship, if you, like I said, almost every single one of them could be a Premier League club. You could swap out most of the mid-tier Premier League clubs for a couple of these, and that would look like a Premier League table in 5 years, 10 years. We've got all these teams, pretty much most of them, been in the Premier League in the last 10 years, and the ones that haven't are just already established giants of the Championship, or ones that just come up that were, like Wednesday were. We haven't been in the top flight for a long time, but we were established in the Championship. We were one of the biggest clubs in the Championship, and we are still one of the bigger clubs in the Championship. I think purely on fan base wise, I think we're top 10 easily, top half, and obviously because this championship's going to be incredibly competitive.
Yeah, massively.
I think that's if anyone says that this championship is going to have a clear winner from here on out, other than, well, not clear winners, but clear top half, clear bottom half, clear relegation, I don't see that happening. I see a team that was in relegation probably finishing top half, a team that everyone thought was lost by January finishing clear, team that everyone thought would go to playoffs by January finishing bottom half. I just think it is going to be a very topsy-turvy, almost like the Swiss League last season, where the gap between second and bottom wasn't much at all. I think it was 20 points, if not less than that. And obviously it's quite a small league in there, so that gap is normally quite a bit bigger. But yeah, let's move on to
12th, 11th and 10th. Who have you got?
I've got Preston, Millwall and Bristol City.
Okay, I'll get this put in there. Preston. Right there. Preston, Millwall and who?
Bristol City.
Bristol. Okay, why those three?
Well, they are. I do think Preston, they've got a decent side. They've got quite a strong side, but I don't think they're strong enough to challenge before those playoffs, yeah. Same with Millwall, same with Bristol City.
You're thinking they're nearly there then?
I'm thinking of nearly that. I'm thinking if they have a good transfer window in the summer, depending on who comes down, these three clubs, along with the next few, will be able to start pushing for playoffs. I do think they will make a push. I think they will, but all of them will spend time in the playoff spot, but I do think equally all of them have a chance to spend time in the bottom half as well. They are really mid-table, the mid-six really, I think are going to be all over the place.
A lot of movement.
I do think they're going to be, these are the clubs I think are going to be consistent, they're just consistently alright. They're not going to have an insane run of form, they aren't going to have a terrible run of form. I think that they are just going to be, they're going to be safe. Obviously, no one's ever going to think they're going to go down. I do think if they let themselves slip, they could easily end up in relegation. But if they let themselves go and they find a good bit of form, they could easily end up pushing for promotion this season. So I think mid-table is a fair place for these 6 middle teams, because there's not really anywhere else to put all this quality. You have to upset a few people, because I do think like a lot of these teams will think that, oh yeah, we're challenging the playoffs, but obviously only 4 can make it. So yeah, I do think Bristol City are ones to watch. They have been on the rise for the last few seasons, and I do think that next season they will get playoffs. I do think. Similar with, and I do think Preston as well. They've got a decent side. They've got strong defence. Story is a Wednesday player on loan. He was solid wells here. And I do think he's a quality player. Millwall, they've always had very good support in Millwall. You'll hear a lot about
passionate fans,
passionate fans is one word for it, yeah. Quite aggressive fans, but that is what you need here. Millwall's support is actually incredible for what it is. You'd think they'll play in the Champions League match with some of their sports and games that you've seen. Like obviously they have a reputation, but that's less so in these years. It's more, when it was a few years ago, good few years ago, when Millwall fans were meant to be these dirty, grotty fans, but they do have a strong, loud fan base, and they make a few away games, they make them sound like that. It's their home game, they can be incredibly loud, and I do think that is what you need in the Championship. You need strong support. That's why I think we feel like we got relegated a few seasons back. You could hear a pin drop in Hillsborough when we got relegated. It was silent because the fans had just lost the will to support, really, because obviously for us in the situation, -6 points, the players all seem like they gave up before Christmas. We're going to games hoping to see something, and we don't see something. I was still trying to support, lots of people were, but when you're trying to chant into a quiet stadium, you very easily lose the will to chant.
Yeah. Who have you got 9th to 7th then? So these will be the teams that are probably in and around the playoff spots.
I think all these teams have spent a good few times in the playoffs. I reckon with good run of form, they might even slip into top 2 occasionally, but I do think they'll settle there. I've got Blackburn, Sunderland and Coventry.
Do you think Sunderland are not going to make the playoffs this season, although they got very close last year?
They had a phenomenal season last year, but obviously they lost Diallo, and Diallo was an incredible player. They brought in Joe Bellingham. I do think that's a bit more of a publicity signing, because they signed him the same day that Real signed Jude. He has got potential. Obviously he's got it in his family, but I don't think he was ever going to live up to his brother. I think that's impossibly high standards to live up to, because 2 years he's not going to be.
No, like, he wasn't as good as he's a decent player, but he was never going to be his brother.
How old was Jude when he went to Dortmund? Was he
17?
17, so yeah, around the same age as he is. Job is now.
Yeah.
Job's 16, isn't he? And Job's gone to Sunderland while Jude went to Dortmund. So obviously there is difference there, but I do think he is going to be quality. He's not going to be as good as Diallo, but he'll bring in some quality.
Yeah.
Obviously he's a good merchandising sale as well. He brought a lot of attention to Sunderland, because a lot of people will now know about Sunderland because obviously of the Bellingham transfer, both happening on the same day. News sites covered the fact it was both on the same day, and I think that was incredibly smart bit of business if they're going to sign him to announce it on the same day. They probably had that signing for a few, maybe in a week or so beforehand, announcing it on the same day was incredibly smart bit of business, brought on attention. They'll sell a few more tickets because of it. I reckon people will want to see Jude Bellingham's brother. I want to see Jude Bellingham's brother, so I hope he plays when he comes to Hillsborough. And then Coventry as well. They're both obviously, Coventry came very close to promotion and then lost out to the shootout, didn't they? But I do think that, again, they are a good side, they've got strength, but they won't be able to invest as much as they did last season because they obviously burn through money. Yeah, because it all comes back to money in the Championship.
It's the main issue, isn't it?
The higher you finish, the more money you probably end up spending. It's very rare that teams will finish without spending too much money. I do think there is a team that will do that this season, but that's just because they're incredibly strong and they've got one of the best players, but I'll get to them. And then Blackburn as well, they've been finishing in and around the top half for a while. They've decided I'm strong enough to do that, but I just don't think they have the investment to push for promotion just yet. I do think they can try in a few years, and I do think that is what a lot of people will want. It's Blackburn back in the Premier League, back in the days of Shearer.
They've got a title. They've got a Premier League title.
Yeah,
Blackburn.
Got a lot of teams here have got Premier League titles, haven't they? Obviously, but having an actual Premier League more than a Division 1 title is something, because it means they got that in the last 30 years really. So I do think Blackburn are one to watch next season. They will be making that push playoffs, but I do think this season they fall short. Yeah, they just won't have enough steam really. I do think these teams will only be like 5-6 points away from playoffs. I do think it could come down to the deadline day that cause teams slip in and out, and I do think this is just how the teams will settle.
And then 6th to, we'll do all your playoff spots, 6th to 3rd. Who's coming 6th?
So Norwich are coming 6th.
Yep.
Watford are coming 5th, and I have them to go up.
Winning the playoffs then.
Yes. Southampton are coming 4th, and Middlesbrough are coming 3rd.
I can get behind that. I mean, Norwich were for a very long time a yo-yo club in that they went up and down and up and down and up and down, and then they haven't done that in a while. Watford as well. And I think, again, if you don't be a yo-yo club, you're going to get stuck in the Championship for a while.
Yeah.
And this is going to be their 3rd season.
So this is the last season. Parachute payments 3 seasons, isn't it? 3-4 seasons. It's been one of the last seasons of parachute payments, and I do think that Norwich and Watford will both use them to the best ability. Watford, they have a decent side, they have a few strong players, and obviously if they finish this way, it'll be Middlesbrough, Norwich, and I do see Middlesbrough winning those games, and then it'll be Watford, Southampton, I see Watford win that, and then Middlesbrough, Watford, they're very close side. I do think that they will, that game in Wembley, if that happens, probably one of the best Championship class games we'll see in a while. I do think that Watford will just edge out and do it. I do think Watford have it in them. I don't think they have it in them to finish higher up. So I do think Middlesbrough and Southampton will both be challenging for the top 2, but I do think they will fall short. But I do think Watford are the underdogs that will go through in these playoffs. A lot of people will be shocked that I don't have all 3 Prem clubs going up, but Southampton, Leeds and Leicester and Southampton have had to sell the most players.
And it's 2 of their biggest players as well that they've had to let go in Ward-Prowse and Levy.
Yeah, and then Livramento as well.
Livramento, yeah.
I can see Walker Peters not staying too long if there's a good offer.
I think he's definitely, Walker Peters is definitely Prem quality. I think that young Bednarek, the centre back, is good enough. Che Adams, I think, is good enough. Bazunu, the keeper, is good enough.
I don't think Che Adams is good at all. I hate Che Adams.
Well, yeah, but he's definitely low Prem quality. I think that Bella chap, that young centre back, I think there's a lot of players in that team before August 31st that could go up to a low level Prem team, that could go to a Luton or a Fulham or someone like that.
Yeah, I do think that is a signing that, or maybe even a January signing, that team will be like, we need to bring in reinforcement. They can do that, but I do think that Southampton they've got a lot of money to spend, but they can't spend it rashly, and they can't buy players that replace the quality. So what they'll want to do is they won't want to spend it all, because they'll want to have some when they go back up. And I do think they will go back up next season if they don't go back up this season. But with all that money they've got from these players, their best option is to strengthen their squad, not burn too much money bringing in players, bringing youngsters that will prove themselves, will fight for it, and then they can go up next season and they'll have extra money from all these big players that they can bring on. And if obviously they've got youngsters, they'll have higher resale value if they don't fit the Premier League team that they want to play. Yeah. And then Middlesbrough as well, they were the favourites to go up in the playoffs last season. Luton managing to sneak through was unprecedented.
Nobody could have predicted that.
No, it's that I do think Middlesbrough have a strong team. I do think they do deserve to be a Premier League team, but I think they'll fall short, and it is unlucky that three giants basically have fallen into the Championship this year. Especially with Leeds and Leicester, I see them both, well, Leicester, Marseille, but Leeds and Leicester obviously not having too much trouble. I will put my second place in now as Leeds, and I want to talk about them for a short minute.
Yeah.
So obviously they have been in the Premier League for quite a while. They have been never really that good, they never really showed too much, but not many people saw them going down the season they did. I saw them going down 3-4 years into the future, but then obviously a few poor choices, and then losing Rafinha, who was their best player, one of the best players they've had in quite a while, and then signing a new manager, getting rid of Bielsa. Bielsa's an amazing manager. Leeds quality really, but Leeds got rid of them. They had a poor run of form, and obviously they're down. I do think they are coming straight back up. They haven't sold too many players. They've brought in a few people, and I do think their support is quite massive as well, which is an important thing to factor in. I think they'll finish, but they'll be only a few points clear of playoffs, and I think the team that's going to be barring out like 100 points, I think, is going to be Leicester.
Yeah.
I think Leicester will have won it a few weeks before it's over. They'll have won it like by the time it's 35 games.
I mean, they've lost both Maddison and Harvey Barnes to Tottenham and Newcastle respectively. Do you not think that's going to scalp them?
I do think that is going to weaken them, but I think the fact they've still got Iñaki and Vardy, and they have dropped off in the Premier League, but Vardy has something to prove. I've seen it like in his few post-mates. Obviously, he stayed with them. Well, lots of people would have expected him to go because he is a big name, and Vardy can be one of the best strikers in English strikers that we've had in a while, and I do think he's gonna tear up this league.
Yeah.
I can see him getting 30 goals.
You think he'll be the golden winner?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think barring it at like an injury or something, Vardy's going to be player of the season. I think they're going to finish like 5 to 7 points ahead of Leeds. Ahead of this, they're going to be clear by far. Like 100 points, especially if they keep going. They've got money, like losing Maddison and Tielemans, they lost him as well, haven't they?
Yeah, Tielemans went on a free. I was surprised no one hired. I know Villa were decent last season, but I think Liverpool could have done well to get him now that they've not got many midfielders.
I think Man U could have done well to get him.
We could have done well with him. There were a lot of even Cities that are Kovacic. I do think Tielemans is better. Arsenal probably is a good depth player. Chelsea, they've signed everyone, so why not him?
Well, because he was free.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah, Todd Burley doesn't like his free signings, does he? But yeah. So this is your league prediction. Are you happy with that?
I am happy with that. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to say the Golden Boot winner is going to be Vardy. Player of the season is going to be Vardy. And I do think that the team that's going to basically win it all is going to be Leicester. Leicester are going to, it's not going to be a challenge for them in my opinion. I think they've still got a strong squad. They've only won the FA Cup, was it 2 seasons ago?
2-3 seasons ago.
Yeah, so they've got something to prove. They've got a lot of money to burn, parish payments on top of their already big budget. They've got massive support. Leicester don't deserve to be anywhere below top half Premier League in my opinion, really.
No.
And the fact they've fallen this far, they really need to prove it. Because if they can't prove that they go up this season,
it's going to be a while before
it's going to be a while before we see them again. Same with Leeds. Like these, but Leicester is going to win it by far. They're going to have the most goals scored, obviously, probably around mid to high, like on keeping goals out of their end as well. I do think King Power's going to be Fort Knox this season. I do think they are going to be the home team that just will only lose like 3-4 games at home, probably go on a good unbeaten run. And if they can do that, I do think it won't be a challenge for them.
Yeah. So anyway, that's your league, so quick fire predictions, no explanation, just answers. Who is going to be the first manager to get sacked?
Right, I do think that it's going to be Siska, Wednesday's manager.
You think Wednesday's manager will be sacked? How many managers out of the 24 teams will be sacked?
I think 5.
5 managers throughout the whole season. Who will win the Premier League?
Who will win the Premier League? I think City are going to do
City. Who will be the second top goal scorer of the Premier League?
Premier League?
Yeah.
Second top, I think Salah.
Salah. Okay, that's interesting. Who will win the Champions League?
Champions League. I do think that there's a lot of teams Champions League. I haven't thought that much through, but I do think Bayern are going to challenge. PSG aren't going to be anywhere near as good. I think the money's on Real, City or Bayern. Those 3.
You're in the Carabao and the FA Cup. Obviously, you were in the FA Cup last season, but you're in the Carabao Cup more regularly now, and you should do a bit better in it. Who's winning the Carabao Cup?
Carabao Cup, I think Newcastle.
Newcastle. Who will win the FA Cup?
I think Manchester City or Manchester United.
You think it'll be Manchester Derby again?
I do think it'll be Manchester Derby again, or the Manchester Derby will be like semis and quarters.
Yeah.
Something good enough, and those ones will be favourites.
Could be very good. Europa League. Who's winning that? Sevilla. They're not in. No, they're in the Champions League. What are you on about?
Sevilla always win it. I'm not sure who's in the Europa League to be honest. I don't follow much
Liverpool,
in Europe.
Brighton.
Brighton. Liverpool then.
Liverpool.
Yeah,
I
Liverpool
think
are in it.
Liverpool. And then we've got the Euros next year. Who's winning that?
England.
And is it coming home this Saturday?
Yes, always. It's always coming home.
Do you think England will beat Spain? What's your predictions for that game?
2-1.
I think 3-1, but we will be
I
watching
do
it.
think Chloe Kelly is going to score
Okay.
a late goal again. I do think she's a phenomenal player for England. She's a phenomenal player for her club as well. She is quite a young talent. She's almost like a young Hurricane really for when he was quite young for Man City breaking through. He was doing quite good. I do think she is going to be one of our better players in England women's team, and I do think they'll bring it home. But I'm always going to say England.
You've got. I do think we will. I do think we will. But we'll be watching it as we ride the Nemesis in front of us, so that will be very fun. So yeah, that's been the Championship predictions. I don't have a League One friend, not anymore. So I don't really know if I'm going to do a League One prediction. We might have a stab at it. We'll see. There might be one that might be interested. I'll probably forget, but we'll probably revisit this at the end of the season. Have a look. And yeah, thanks for watching. It's been a pleasure. Write down below if you want me to cover anything, talk about anything. 50 minutes. A lot longer than I thought.
I've been waffling for hours.
I've been waffling for a while, and it's going to take a while to put together. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment. Check out the other videos on the channel. See you in a bit. Love you. Bye.
Yeah.